Yep, just like that, I am live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to bring a guest up. Um, I'm going to have a couple of these today and a couple of these tomorrow. But this is one of those. I had other plans with this gentleman, and he will be part of bigger plans. But we were talking, and he said, "Well, I can reschedule, or we can do it." I said, "No, let's come on. We'll talk about some other less heavy stuff, and we'll just do some podcast magic." And with that being said, I'm going to bring him into the stream here. Clay Dennis, how you doing, sir?
Hey man, how are you?
I am good, buddy. How are you? Let me get everything set up. Hey, you know what? I don't like that background. Watch this. You ready for this? Watch how cool this is. Let's see if I can do it real quick while we're talking. Let's see the theme. Yeah, I got the theme overlay background. That's what I want. Do you want a spooky background?
You do anything you want.
Look at that, man.
There you go.
There. Now we're theme. Now we're hip and cool. How you doing, Clay Dennis?
Good. Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Man, so let's give a frame of reference because I want to remind people of who you are and what you did and then what you're doing. You used to own Southern Hearth and Patio. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. Yeah.
And you sold that, what, 3 years ago?
Three and a half years ago. Yeah.
That's pretty. You know, it's funny. I can't remember what I did with my keys, but I almost nailed when you sold your company.
It's hard to believe it's been 3.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, I still have people that call me and say, hey, I need to get on the schedule for doing so and so. And I'm like, well, I don't think most of the people there really know who I am, but I'll be glad to make a phone call for you.
Was it hard when you sold Southern Patio? And we'll talk about what you're doing currently, and we might dive into a little political civil discourse here in a minute. But was it hard when you left to the first year or so to watch the commercials? Did you have any contact with how they were running? Was there any kind of that separation anxiety going on?
It was not from a commercial standpoint. It was probably the most difficult thing that I've gone through in my life. I answered the phone. This is Clay with Southern Hearth and Patio for 17 years. And it took me 90 days, 120 days to realize that I was no longer Clay with Southern Hearth and Patio. It became and part of the reason I sold was that I had lost who Clay Dennis is.
Oh, wow.
And where Clay with Southern Hearth begins. And I think that's common for a lot of business owners. And when I sold it, it just was much, much more difficult for me. It took me a good 90 to 120 days to realize that I wasn't that guy anymore. And so I had to figure out who I was going to be.
Well, it's probably like detoxing. It was like detoxing off drugs, wasn't it?
It was. And I'm so blessed to have had the opportunity to have 90 to 120 days where I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So I sat back. Charlotte said it was 89 days, 9 hours, 26 minutes, and 18 seconds.
Until you got involved in something else.
He's like, I don't know what you need to do, but you got to get out of here.
They'll quit. I don't know where you're going, but I know you ain't staying here, man. It's the alarm clock rings, you get to it. And I know people may know why you started it. And that's, I've heard that story, but I want to talk about the day-to-day operation. I wrote some stuff down that I think you give good advice on. What were you, as you operated your business, what were you good at and what were you bad at as a business owner?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. It's actually a lot different than what I would have answered 3 years ago. Okay, a lot different. A lot like a lot of small businesses. Like I knew from the time I was 17 years old that I was supposed to be a salesperson. I was just good at it. I know I'm good at it. I mean, people listen to me. I can be animated. I'm passionate about what I talk about. I spend a lot of time training, and people really do trust me to buy just about anything. I'm not great looking. I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
I see some guitars behind you, though.
Yeah, I've wanted to play since I was about 14, and so this last year I've decided to pick up some guitar, and so I've learned some open chords and that kind of thing. So I'm doing some things that I really wanted to do, but I learned that those were not my gifts, and that's okay. And so what I found was I became a salesperson who got into a business and did really well with it until it got a little bigger and needed some management, and it needed business principles, and it needed business foundational elements that I was having to work through and discover as I went. I had to surround myself with other people. And so what I've been doing in the last 3 years is you take a really, really great high-end landscaper, probably started with a guy with a shovel and a lawnmower who really liked being outside. He liked being his own boss. He liked working for cash. He liked whatever. And then suddenly you start knocking on the door of $1 million, and he realizes he doesn't have any management experience, right? But this business is growing, and he's got to learn that sometimes you're just not good at those things, and it's okay. So you have to surround yourself with people. Well, I use the term surround yourself with people who give a damn. You need an advisor, an accountant, bookkeeper, an attorney, those type things.
Well, I put down here, there's two types of teams. There's the team that you hire, that's the official team, and then there's the team you choose to set around yourself. That's almost your board of directors type of thing. And I will echo what you said as far as when the business grew, you changed who you put around you. I experienced a little bit of that, except we are the tale of, the two trails diverged into the woods. I chose not to listen to people that I put around me on some things because my ego would get in the way. I'm really good at these things, so I'm probably okay at this. No, dude, you're not good at cash flow. Give that to somebody else. You're great at these three things, but these two things aren't. And it cost me in the long run of that and some other life things, just cost me one of the businesses I ran. And I think if you're a business owner or a young entrepreneur, that's some of the best advice that you can give them is what you just said. Put people around you that are good at things that you're not good at. And then here's the hardest part. Listen.
What's really hard now is when I make recommendations, when the business owner or the people, my client I'm talking to will say, yeah, we're not going to do that. The first couple of times I thought, now listen, and then you know what, that's not my role. My role, I'm not their boss. I made it plain. And I try to create a relationship that says, okay, I'm going to go on record here in writing. So if this goes off the rail, I'm going to hold it over your head and give you complete and total crap about it. And they always laugh and say, okay, and at the end of the day, I don't want to make decisions for them. The truth is they have to make decisions for themselves based on information provided. And if it works, they get the credit. If it fails, they get the responsibility. And so I had to learn really that my job was not to get them to make decisions. My job was just to guide them.
One of the things you said, and then we kind of walked by it, was you had lost yourself to the company, and you alluded to, you think that's pretty commonplace for business owners, because most of the business owners in the world today have between like 1 and 5 employees, 1 and maybe 10 employees. And it's easy for that to become, just like in a marriage, you've seen it before, people lose their identity to the stronger partner. If you become a parent, I've seen it before, people get lost in church. People can get lost in being a parent. And if you own a small business, it's easy for that is who you are, but it's not super healthy, is it?
No, it's really not. In fact, the harder you go, the more difficult it is to get out of it. Yeah, Charlotte made a comment to me right after I'd sold that she said, Clay, Ryan and I are not your employees. Seriously. I mean, you talk about, that's just getting hit right in the forehead. Yeah. I'm still trying to be in control of things that's not who I am. I don't need to be in that control, and probably didn't need to be that way as a business owner. And so,
would you do things different if you were to go back now, take what you know?
Oh yeah. I've actually gone back and apologized to several of my employees, and a lot of them have said, well, you don't owe me an apology. That's just the way, that's how it worked. I could have been a better mentor. I could have been probably a little more, a benevolent dictator is the word that the manager that I hired, who was George Linden, who just did an amazing job the last few years I was there. He just wanted me to become the benevolent dictator. Don't get on to them. Just, not too hard. Understand they're going to make mistakes. Once is a mistake, twice is a choice. And somebody had to do that, and I was the heavy. And maybe the way I did it was fine. But in my brain, looking back, what I know now, I might have spent more time with them individually. The problem that you run into is as the company gets bigger and bigger, when you get to say $500,000, you're not a hobby anymore. Okay. Yeah. And you can't figure out why you can't break the million. Well, you can't break $1 million unless you're thinking like a $2 million company. Yeah. And then you have to change that again when you hit 1.5, 1.8. You can't break 2 million. People will literally stay in that 1.5 to 1.9 window for 10 years. And they can't get past 2 million because they have to think like a $3 million company. You have to have HR platforms, training platforms. You have to have these types of things that you can't do as a hobby business.
Well, I think business owners a lot of times, I used to use this word all the time, scale, right?
Yeah.
We want to build to scale. Well, I don't think business owners, at least I didn't understand that if you're going to build systems and stuff to scale, that's great. But if you don't adjust for where your deficiencies are, they're going to scale too. So if you got a little leak in the boat with cash flow, but you can manage and you scale everything without addressing what my problem is, that's going to become a gaping hole in the boat.
Well, that's a great point. And I've got folks who were around, let's say $750,000, $800,000, and they're averaging out about a 22% profit margin. They thought they were doing 35 to 40. Okay. But they really, a lot of that escapes they're so busy in the day-to-day stuff that they just see what they want to in a report. You look at revenue. I did it the first several years I was involved. I looked at revenue, and I survived last year. So if I do that revenue this year, I'll be fine.
Right.
Well, what happened was as costs continue to go up, you end up working harder. So in order to double my business, the only way to double my business now is to double the number of customers. Well, I'm already working 65, 70 hours a week. How am I going to do that?
Well, and two, yes to that. And I'll add just a little bit to it. One of the things that I did is I started saying yes to things because I was a service provider that I wasn't really good at. So what happened was I would say yes to things because I needed the revenue. Like you just said, I needed to keep the revenue up to match, right? Because I'm not making as much. And so I started saying yes to different services and products, and it would take me more time. So I'm really not making any money on it. They ended up being, you want to call them lead losses. They were just losses. They weren't leading me anywhere,
But, when you're operating on slim margins, you could literally let go. Let's just pick an arbitrary number and say a quarter of your customers and still keep the same amount of money in your bank account.
And a lot less stress.
And a lot less stress.
Oh, I wish I'd have done that. God, I wish I'd have done that.
I'm not saying taught. I believe that I had to grow every year. Business owners believe they have to grow. And I remember standing in my living room after selling the company and thinking about what I had made the year before. And I thought, damn, I did pretty well. Why was I so focused on having to grow and grow? Why couldn't I just stay where I was at for the next 10 years and lived a pretty comfortable life?
Well,
I'm sorry. One of you guys now is saying, hey, tell me how much you want to make, and let's see how hard we have to work to get there. All right.
Yeah.
And get rid of the services that you don't make money on. Don't worry about this stuff. You could lose half your customers if you double your prices.
Well, and two, so do you still do the part-time business? Is that you still do that?
That's my primary. Yeah.
Part-time business partners.
Yeah. I work half days doing it. It's a great gig for me. I'm home in the afternoons and
well, you get to use all the stuff we've talked about and kind of use all your mistakes. So hopefully other business owners don't have to. Sometimes I think the definitions we use in life are so important. And for what I mean by that is, so what would happen if you're a business owner, you're watching this and you want to reach out to Clay or you want to fix next year. And instead of the year that you grow next year, my goal is keeping everything kind of the same financially. If you did okay, but next year's my systems and processes year. So I'm going to spend 12 months on nothing but systems and processes.
Yes.
Don't you think that people would end up shaking money out of their pants pockets on that, wouldn't they?
I'll tell you what, this last year I worked with 7 companies. Okay. The average increase in profits, not revenue, profits was 48%.
Whoa. Holy mackerel.
That's after you pay for my services, not before.
Wow.
48%.
Where did that come from?
Well, it's people thinking that they were buying at thinking they were buying at a pretty good rate. Well, we go in and we can maybe buy your cost of goods. If you've got your, let me start this way. People don't really have a grasp on gross margin versus net profit. So they have a lot of cost of goods sold in their expense column. And so they think they're making 70 some odd percent gross margin, when in reality, it's tremendously lower. Well, you can't just double your margin. So, but if you're doing $1 million at say 30% gross margin, that's 300,000. So if you go to 300 and if you go to from 300 to 350, that's only a 5% gross margin increase, 5%, no big
Right.
deal. But it's a $50,000 add-on to the net bottom, to the net. So at $1 million, let's say you're making 100, 110, or a little less maybe, but let's 100, 110. The rule of thumb I use is 10%. You can make a lot more, but typically the owner should keep 10% of revenue is a good way to start things.
Right.
If you add 5%, I mean, think about this. Every dollar you earn, you keep 10 cents. Every dollar you save, you keep $1.
You keep $1. Yeah.
Okay. And so so do that first before you double, because once you get that in place, now go up 10 or 15% in revenue, and then another 20, and then another, or whatever.
Because then it's real money and you're keeping but the other thing too is I did a video a couple of weeks ago. It's also a mindset. It's a paradigm shift for a lot of business owners. I did one on sales, and I walked people through numbers because I'm not a numbers guy, but I'm a big believer on knowing certain numbers really well. And so I walked them through, at the end of the day, how much is a no worth? As a salesperson, if I can assign a dollar value to every time I'm told no, then I made money on a sales call, whether I got them or not. If I know my system and processes, how much is a sit down worth, how much, eventually, then I'm not burnt out. Well, I made 5 phone calls. I didn't get one, but I made $5,000. Why? Because I know what my percentages are. So I know eventually I'm going to get this. And it's really weird when you watch it on their face go, yeah, I get that. It's a change of the light. It's the light bulb moment.
The light switch. And it's funny because sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
You have to do it. Oh, yeah, I get it. And then you wait a few days, and then you go over it again. And then all of a sudden they go, wait a minute. Wait. So if I do this, I mean, it just clicks. And sometimes it just has to, it's like dirt through a filter. That's how my brain works. Sometimes people will tell me things, and I just have to wait until it filters.
When I was and I wasn't a sales manager long, but I was a sales manager long enough. And even when I owned my own small business, I tried to change the words we use, and it sounds cheesy, but it works. And I would ask people, and I had this one guy, I wish I could remember his name. He was only with me for about 6 months. He got hired away because he was good at what he did, and I wasn't going to keep him long. But he would go around and say, how much money did you make today? And I would just talk to him. He went $4,000. And did you make any closes? He goes, no, but I had this many conversations, and I know because I showed him the numbers thing. So in his mind, a no had some dollars to it, man, and he was making money. And I love that idea of that energy because it just brings it. The more I dial, the more I actually have these kind of conversations, then eventually the more money I can get. Now, the problem with it is, and the reason I needed somebody like you years ago was bringing the money in, and then it just magically would go. Next thing you know, Clinton's not a millionaire.
I was the guy that once I wasn't dirt floor poor growing up, but I went, I wanted for little, but I was raised by my grandmother mostly, and in a very, very small house, and she never really made any real money. And so the first time I had, $5,000-$6,000 laying around, I'm thinking, I want to go buy, I want to add this to my car. I'm going to go, I'm going to go buy, another whatever. And then I'm surrounding myself with people who want to fly to go where they go golfing. And that's cool. But you can get ahead of your skis pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You start buying 3 or 4 really nice high-end watches and all of this. And then once you get them, you go, what was that all? Yeah, okay, now what?
And now when my car breaks down, I can't fix it. I have to pawn the watch.
So now when I'll look back at something and I'll say, hey, you know what? We've got an extra $6,000 here, or an extra $5,000 here. Why don't we let's find us a cause, or let's find somebody who really needs some help with something. Or maybe we just take a trip. Let's just go ride. Let's go visit my brother in Kentucky, or let's do something really with it. I don't need another gun or another guitar. I don't, I just don't.
If you feel like buying me a gun, man, feel free to buy me a gun. That's so sweet of you. I want an AR-15. Santa. Oh yeah. I wanted one for 2 years.
Well, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh, but the part of the reason I was a few minutes coming into this is I just sold a 300 blackout 30 minutes ago. So I mean, you know,
I've got plenty of buddies that are like, dude, when you're ready to buy one, let me know. I'm like, listen, when I'm ready, when I got the money, I'll let you know. But until then, I'll just run to your house with my 2 little BB guns I got at the house.
You're welcome here anytime.
So let's do this. Let's spend the last couple of minutes we got before we jet. Me and you and Eric Buchanan are going to get on. John Ballinger and Eric, because of their job descriptions, both get called into court quite frequently. They both get called into these long projects. So Of, By, and For the People took about a 3-week hiatus, but we are about to fire it back up, and you're going to sit in with me and Eric the next couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about that. And I think do you know Eric very well?
Oh, yeah. Well,
okay.
Well, I know him, but we're not, we would recognize each other when we see each other, but yeah.
Great guy. You'll love the conversation. You'll love it. He's super smart.
I knew his dad. He was a longtime customer of ours, and he was just a great guy.
Good guy. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. But also, I want everybody to remember part-time business. It's part-time business partners, right?
Right.
So if you're a business and you're somebody and you go, I have certain strengths, I have certain weaknesses, I think I could be getting more out of my business in different areas. Clay's the guy you need to call and say, come talk to me. Let me see if you can take my business to the next level. But in the last 2 or 3 minutes we have, I did this on purpose. So we can't get in trouble talking too much politics. We're going to save that for Of, By, and For the People with me and Eric. What do you think happens Tuesday, man? Are you a predictor of ways of the future?
I think Trump wins somewhere in the 320 range, probably, of electoral votes. It's not going to be close.
Whoa. Now, you don't think he could lose 7 days later when they let all the ballots that they've got sitting somewhere and they count those? Okay.
No.
All right.
The floating those in are going to be big. But if Trump wins by 150,000 or 180,000 and there's only 32,000 votes still outstanding, it's not really going to matter anyway.
So you're predicting a landslide electoral college.
People don't remember that against Hillary. All I ever hear is about, it was the popular vote. Well, that's like losing a football game and saying, yeah, but we had more yardage. That's not the rules of the game.
Well, but
Trump got was it 306? I think it was 306.
I think so.
It was not. I mean, it could easily be called a landslide.
But I'm thinking there's a lot of people now kind of voting not for Biden because it's going to be Kamala anyway doing the president. She's going to be your president. But I think they're voting against Trump.
Absolutely. You're not voting. No one is voting for Biden this time.
Right.
I absolutely refuse to believe it. They're voting either for Trump or Obama.
I've read a book, though, that tells me eventually the world will end.
Right.
And that's okay because it's all under control.
Yeah. But I don't. There's a couple of things. First off, I don't trust polls. I think the last 3 or 4 election cycles showed that the polls were highly suspect to begin with, and it's all in the wording and how you want it and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you look at the number of Twitter followers between the two, Joe's got like 6 million, and
the rallies
2 million. You go to the rallies. I mean, it's just there's something that's just not adding up.
Yeah,
and I think they know that as long as they keep Joe hidden, he's got a better chance than if he gets out there
because he can't.
They're voting for Biden. They're voting against Trump.
Well, and it's kind of obvious at this point. And I've said it before, and people think I'm mean, but it's obvious to me. I think it's sad. At first, it was funny. Not funny, but like, man, I can't believe they're running him. But I think it's sad now to watch him mentally, whether you like his policies, whether you think he might be a somewhat, swamp guy in the politics for 40 years, whatever but his mentally declining, and you're watching it in real time. I think it's sad.
Well, the thing about Kamala that gets me probably more so than anything else is that she never garnered more than 2% of the vote. So how did she get picked based on 2% of the vote? Something that just doesn't make any sense. And so what I've said before, and you've probably seen it on Facebook, Trump is the direct result of Biden's and his crew's failures.
Yeah.
If you want to know, President Trump never would have ran if Obama and Biden and Hillary were able to unite the country the way they believe. And I'm not so sure they really know better. I think they stay in their little pod, and that's just what they do. But Trump was the direct result of their failures to the American people. And Trump is the legacy of Obama and Biden.
Well, and I'll say this, and then we do have to roll because I got another guy I'm about to bring on and talk some cool stuff with. But I also think in the world we live in nowadays, and I've said this a bunch, I wish, and I know we're never going to get back to it, but I wish we would hold our own party to as much accountable as we do the other party. We have gotten it's so obvious now to where we completely just do this when it's our side, and we do this when it's the other side. That's what alienates us. It's not that we disagree. It's just if you're not going to be accountable, or you're not going to be objective about what your side's doing, then that leaves us know we got to play Red Rover, Red Rover.
Well, let me just say, I don't believe that the Republican Party cares anything more about the people. Let me back up. The people at the congressional level care anything more about Americans than the Democrats. Okay. If Trump had slumped in the ratings, they'd eat their own just as fast as the Democrats did.
Absolutely.
I saw that during the last cycle, and I became a Trump fan when he went after, I'd say when he replied to Cruz and
Marco
Rubio's attacks there on the stage at the Ronald Reagan Museum.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I thought, you know what, these guys, if both sides hate him that bad, and I do believe that he's exposing a lot of corruption. If you look at the alleged stuff against Hunter and Joe, it's not that far removed from Hillary Clinton. I mean, look at what she was accused of. And
think of 4 more years of investigations, what that'll pull up. I think that's why they're wanting him out.
If Trump wins, he'll pull the stops up, because then he's got no more elections to have to worry about. But if Trump loses, those things go away.
Well, I just want to go on. We got to get out of here. I got this guy texting me, but I just want to go on record now that Clay Dennis predicted a landslide 320 or 305 or something victory for Trump.
I'm going to say 325.
Man, I feel like we're doing the over-under on a Saturday football game. There ought to be beer or something involved.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. Bye, Clay Dennis.